Police emergency, what's happened there, please?
Our next door neighbour is not answering. Upstairs, there's a bay window wide open.
Okay, how old is your neighbour?
Around about 77.
Does he live alone?
Yes.
David, it's the police.
David? David? He's here. It's freezing cold. And that looks like ligature marks on his ankles to me.
West Midlands Police have been alerted to the suspicious death of an elderly man in Halesowen, southwest of Birmingham. Crime scene coordinator Joe Ward is in charge of the forensic investigation.
A digital imagery and reconstruction team was carried out 3D scanning at the scene to get a geography of the actual house itself and to see what may be important or relevant for the investigation. So our deceased is positioned face down on the floor. There's ligature marks, quite deep indentations on the ankles and also on the wrists. And it looks like he may have had his hands tied behind his back. Elderly people pass away in their homes every day, but clearly something violent has taken place. We need to now find the forensic evidence to tell us what exactly happened in that room. There's a chair there that's got what appears to be telephone cable tied around the legs. And then you've got a pair of scissors and then a knife on the floor. It looks like there's blood on the carpet. There's a lot of paperwork that has been kind of thrown around on the floor, bank statements and things like that. The scene itself suggests to me it may have been a burglary that's gone wrong, but what the poor gentleman must have gone through prior to his death, it doesn't even bear thinking about. We try and kind of detach ourselves, but sometimes it does upset you.
While the body of the victim is sent for post-mortem, Joe joins homicide detective Tom Lyons for a briefing with the investigation team.
This is David Varlow. He's 78 years old, and we found him deceased on the 15th of November at Manor Lane in Halesowen. As you can see here, there's an open window. So the hypothesis at the moment is that our offender has essentially scaled up this drain pipe and gone into David's house through his first floor window. And that's David's lounge on the ground floor. And this is how he was found, with his hands in an unusual position behind his back. Found untied, but The indentations in his wrists and his ankles seem to suggest he's been tied up for a long time. It's horrific what's happened to him. It looks like a burglary, but it appears as though he's been tied up and left to die. So from the off, we're investigating this as a murder. We know that his brother spoke to him on the 30th of October, so that's 15 days ago. David was someone who kept himself to himself, but he did have regular contact with his brother that lives in the northeast. When his brother couldn't get hold of him, he contacted neighbours, and when they couldn't get hold of him, it was them that called the police. So we've got a really big timeline here on where our offence could have happened. So the timeline we've managed to establish at the moment is David's body was found on the 15th of November. His brother spoke to him on the 30th of October. So we've got a 2-week period to identify when David's death has occurred. This is interesting. On the table, there's a half-drunk cup of tea, there's a half a bowl of cereal, the milk's there that's out of date, David's glasses, and a half-eaten bit of breakfast, essentially. And we've got a TV guide, and the date on that TV guide is the 3rd of November, so it might be a key date around the 3rd of November. Narrowing down the timeline is absolutely vital in figuring out when David has been tied up, when he's been left, and when he was last seen alive. There's his front door. The 2-week period does make it more problematic. There's more inquiries we've got to do, more CCTV to view. But the police's job ultimately is to protect the community. And for me, what makes this such a horrific crime is that David was attacked in his own home, where he's got the absolute right to feel safe. Thank you, everyone. We need to catch this person who has done this to David, so they won't be able to do this to anyone else.
With a murderer at large, the forensic team focuses on finding any traces the killer may have left at the scene.
We're concentrating on fingerprints where we think the offender has climbed in. So there was a first floor window that was open, and then also items that have clearly been touched, drawers that have been opened, paperwork has been strewn around. One of the chairs was found in an unusual position, so possibly the perpetrator has left his fingerprints on the chair itself.
With the forensic operation underway, Tom Lyons searches police systems and discovers David recently contacted the police.
I came down earlier on when I heard something here. When you heard rummaging about, did you feel that was in the house or outside, or? I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. Okay.
The incident occurred 3 weeks before David's body was discovered.
So we've got hold of body-worn video from the officer who attended David's address when David reported to the police a burglary at his house on the 24th of October.
And then you heard the glass smash? Yeah.
David basically says that the window's smashed and he sees a hand coming through.
Well, can you arrange for it to be repaired?
If you'd like us to, yeah, we can. We'll just get it temporarily boarded up so it's safe, so no one else can be sticking their arms through.
Well, okay, rightio.
Looking at David just reminds me of my own grandparents' house, really.
Yeah.
To see David alive and well on the body cam is just, quite upsetting. Seeing essentially an elderly, vulnerable man who's soon to be a victim of a horrific crime.
I'm getting on a bit.
How old are you?
78.
Oh, I just said you were 21.
I don't seem to quite look it, but as I say, I seem to be not very good mentally,
Knowing an offender has targeted David's house a week before, and then clearly someone has targeted him again, you have to ask the question, is that the same person who has gone back to a scene of a previous crime and he's essentially re-burgled David, which has then turned into a murder?
Extensive checks at the crime scene have only revealed fingerprints belonging to David. But the chair which had the cable attached has been removed and sent for further testing by fingerprint development manager Mia Webb.
Areas of particular interest are where we would expect the suspect to have handled the chair. So we're probably looking up here towards the top of the chair as if they've grabbed it like that, or again at the sides of the chair as if they've held it along the side of the chair to move the chair around the scene. And we'll start by examining with ultraviolet using a laser. The lasers will fluoresce any constituents or any contaminants to the fingerprint. Leather itself isn't very good to get fingerprints from, just because of the textured nature of the surface. There isn't any sign of any friction ridge detail.
A further process to help detect prints is known as superglue fuming.
The superglue will get heated to the point where it evaporates, and then it will be circulated around the chamber. The superglue will adhere to any water that's present in the sweat of a fingerprint.
Ultraviolet light creates a high-resolution image which enhances any fingerprint marks developed by the superglue treatment.
Again, there are no marks.
It's really disappointing that we've not been able to identify anyone through fingerprints. This may possibly suggest that they're forensically aware, so it may be that the perpetrator put gloves on, or if they don't particularly sweat a lot, they're less likely to leave ridge detail.
In a bid to narrow down when the crime may have taken place, Tom and CCTV specialist Glenn Manning focus on inquiries near to the murder scene.
CCTV usually only lasts between 14 and 30 days, so that really puts us up against it in terms of time to retrieve that evidence, basically. Right here.
Yeah, it's right here for Manor Lane.
All CCTV is obviously time dated, so if we can find proof of life of David on that CCTV, then it'll really narrow down when this crime has happened. But we're also looking for suspicious people going towards or away from David's address.
And we'll have to take from the scene here all the way back down the road because we don't know what the final route in or route out was.
There's ring flood cams, doorbell cameras. Some of these are on motion, but a light will come on. We have to look at every single opportunity we possibly can and get those downloaded.
So, cameras over there and there. Just up in the eaves up there as well.
Yep.
OK, Joe, can we go through the forensic statutory documents so we can just have a look what submissions you want to get in?
To decide on the next steps of the forensic investigation, Joe meets with Tom and DI Ranj Sangha.
So we've carried out fingerprint examination at the scene, but nothing was found. But the chair that was found nearby, it actually got like a telephone cable around it. There's chances that there'd be some cellular DNA from whoever has tied that around the legs. Cellular DNA is what we refer to as touch DNA. So if you touch or handle anything, then you kind of shed skin cells, which then stick to the item, which then leave your DNA on that particular item. And then there was found a knife and some scissors. Now, again, has the offender or offenders used the knife and the scissors to cut that cable?
Yeah.
If they have, obviously they've had to have a firm grip, you know, could we have cellular DNA on those items as well? Even if the perpetrator was wearing gloves, there's still an opportunity to get DNA. A lot of people are not aware of that. You know, you have to put the gloves on, so you're still touching the outside of the gloves, and you may touch your face or any bare skin. Obviously then, the DNA testing may identify the perpetrator.
Forensic scientist Phil Field prepares to take DNA swabs of several items from the crime scene.
It's quite possible that these scissors were being handled by the offender at some point, and so we're just considering surface areas which we might be able to sample in an attempt to obtain some DNA material. In the past, you needed quite a lot of blood to get a DNA profile from it, so usually something in the realms of the size of a 2p piece. These days, thanks to the increased sensitivity of DNA profiling techniques, we can obtain a DNA profile from not much larger than a pinprick. So this cable has potentially been used by the offender to tie up and restrain the victim. If the offender has had quite forceful contact with the item, they've gripped it and pulled it in order to tie the victim up, that could have the effect of increasing the quantity of cellular DNA material that has actually been transferred from them to the item.
While the swabs are sent to a specialist lab for urgent processing, CCTV specialist Glenn and Detective Helen Robbins
Hi, Helen, you're right.
start to forensically examine the hundreds of hours of footage gathered from near David's house.
So what we're looking for really here is to see if we've got David to try and find last sign of life.
Yep.
We know that David's property itself doesn't have CCTV footage, and we know that we've only got cameras either side of the property, but not near to or that has sight of his property.
We'll start on the 15th of November, the day that we discovered David's body, and we'll work our way back from there towards the 30th of October. We'll also be looking for someone acting suspicious. We'll cover the nighttime economy times, because that's more than likely the time that you would have somebody going out and committing this type of offence. We're going to prioritise CCTV closest to the scene location. This is what we call Zone 1. But what we're looking at really is whether there's any golden nuggets contained within that footage. That may then lead us into another zone.
As well as searching for David's last proof of life, the investigation team has been awaiting a post-mortem result to confirm his cause of death. Joe has received the pathologist's report.
So examination of his heart noted significant disease to his coronary arteries. So he's obviously got a background of pre-existing cardiac disease. So in the pathologist's opinion, the medical cause of death is considered to be a stress-related cardiac event, and that the ligature restraint may well have compounded the heart disease on a psychological basis. A cardiac event is basically a heart attack, and a psychological episode is, you know, he's frightened to death. For me personally, someone in your home is frightening enough, but for an elderly gentleman, he must have really been petrified and in fear of his life. Someone tied him up and just basically left him there.
While the post-mortem confirms David's cause of death, exactly when he died is still unknown. Forensic finance specialist Alex Backrath has been authorised to access his bank records to track when David last used his account.
So the deceased gentleman was found on the 15th. So going back 5 days worth of transactions, at present I've got 212 individual transactions over a 5-day period. £20, £20, £20, lower limit transactions where 12, 13 of these are at the same supermarket. That raises concerns. If you're doing a transaction, why wouldn't you just do it in one go? There's a fee paid every time. Would a reasonable person be doing that with their own bank account, their own funds? In my opinion, these aren't the spending habits of a 78-year-old man. They are very erratic, transaction after transaction, seconds, minutes in between them. At the crime scene, there is bank statements on the floor strewn about the place. So I think that over this period, that card's been in the offender's hand and the offence itself happened further back than we originally anticipated. I'm going to need to go back to the bank and obtain further days, maybe weeks' worth of transactions.
While Alex needs to look deeper into David's accounts, it's become clear his bank card has been in the hands of someone else. Glenn can now refocus the CCTV search.
We've received a number of financial transactions from different places within Birmingham and also in Halesowen. So the importance now is that we view CCTV footage from each and every one of those locations.
We need to start building up a picture of anybody we may see on here in relation to those financials.
With David's bank account suggesting the crime took place several days before the discovery of his body, Joe and Tom have called in pathologist Brett Lockyer to see if he can help narrow down when David died.
David was found deceased on the 15th of November. Can we pinpoint the time of death?
So he has been deceased for some period of time.
Yeah.
There were signs of mummification. And also when he's found, his hands are still in that unnatural position behind his back. That's because rigor mortis has developed and his muscles have frozen into that position. So whilst it's not possible to say exactly when he did die, the post-mortem would indicate that he had been dead for a week, if not longer.
That's really helpful, thank you.
What I can say is that the act of tying him up would have happened when he was alive. The interesting thing, of course, is that had the ligature been removed immediately after he died, then you wouldn't necessarily see the blood settling, which is otherwise known as hypostasis. That only really occurs after the heart stopped beating. So they would indicate that the bindings have been removed after he's been deceased for a period of time.
Yeah.
But from the pathology, are you able to say a period of time he was tied up for before he was untied?
Well, I can't say exactly when he has been untied, but he certainly hasn't been untied within hours of being deceased. That's most likely to have occurred at a later period.
Speaking to the pathologist raises a few more questions. When was he tied up and when was he untied? And who's untied him? Could it be the offender has been in there for some time and untied him? Has the offender returned and untied him? Or is there a third party who's been in David's address, untied him, but for whatever reason hasn't contacted the police?
Based on the financial analysis of David's bank card, Glenn and Helen have been searching through multiple cameras from shops and cash points.
Most locations that have an ATM, or if a card is being used within a shop, for instance, the till area is going to be covered by CCTV. So now we've got the exact time and location of the suspicious transactions. We would hope to see on that footage the person that has committed this horrendous crime.
So in the early hours of the morning, we had the use of the bank card on the Broadway.
Oh, there's two cameras, camera 14 and camera 28.
What angle does the other one give you?
Glenn moves on to a second suspicious transaction, identified by the financial analysis.
Not sure that's the same person.
No, that looks like a woman, doesn't it?
It does look like a woman, exactly. And the timing of that is perfect for that transaction. It just appears that we're not just dealing with one person here.
November 12th, 14th, and then we've got females using his bank card. That is very surprising. I was expecting one person, but now there's multiple people using David's bank card. We've got to keep an open mind as to how many people now are involved in David's murder.
Officers start trying to identify the numerous people caught on CCTV using the bank card.
It does make the investigation more difficult. It gives us more lines of inquiry because we've now got to identify all these different people fraudulently using David's card.
While the search widens for David's killer, finance specialist Alex has gained authorization to look back further into his accounts.
So I've got transactions dating from the 14th of November going back. If we can identify where the victim's normal account usage ends and what we believe is the offender's usage starts, it really narrows down that time frame for when the offence happened. It looks like David's normal spending habits are trips to his local Asda, presumably do his weekly shopping, and he does do ATM transactions, but they are one-offs at a normal time in daylight hours. It looks like I've found the final legitimate transaction carried out by David. It's a purchase at his local Asda on the 2nd. Then from the early hours of the 3rd, the transactions from his account radically change. And I believe the first suspicious transaction carried out by the offender and not by David is from the Co-op at just after 6 o'clock in the morning on the 3rd of November. I think those early transactions are the offenders that took control of that card and committed this offence.
The first fraudulent transaction on David's card was committed 12 days before the discovery of his body.
In excess of £8,000 has been stolen fraudulently in over 300 different transactions.
A CCTV check with Asda confirms Alex's theory.
It's really sad to know that David had gone about his normal day, minding his own business, buying his groceries, unaware as to what was to come.
With the financial analysis revealing the time and place of the very first fraudulent usage of David's card, detectives can now pinpoint CCTV footage from the exact time of the transaction.
I'm now watching the CCTV from the transaction on the 3rd of November at about 5:30 in the morning. And I can see a male at the cash machine. And this male is not David Varlow. He's hooded up. He looks shorter. He's moving more freely. So this is our burglar.
The cash machine is just 2 minutes' walk from David's house, but the suspect is as yet unidentified. To see if they can find a clearer image, Tom and the team track the suspect as he crosses further CCTV cameras.
He's still got his hood up and he's still got a mask on. And this is the number 9 bus pulling up at a bus stop. And it looks like there's a male who gets on. There's no other people walking up Spies Lane at this time. He's got distinct trainers and he's got a distinct jacket with white markings on. And he goes upstairs on the bus. This is our first really good image. He's still wearing a mask and his hood up, but he's got really distinct eyes.
Joe has received the lab report on the items from the crime scene, submitted for DNA analysis.
Okay, so a mixed result was obtained from the sample taken from the knotted area of the cable which was wrapped around the rear left leg of the chair. They've examined the knife as well, and they sampled an area of the blade. The DNA profile of David Varlow, the victim, was obtained from blood that was taken from the blade of the knife. And then a mixed profile was obtained from the handle of the knife, which was enough in the partial profile to then do a search on the National DNA database. And a match was obtained. A DNA match is really hard to dispute in court as it's incredibly accurate. And in this particular case, it's 1 in a billion. Hiya, Tom, it's Joe.
I've just had the DNA results come through. Ah, excellent. Go on.
Good news, we've got a name. Adriz Mohammed.
Adriz Mohammed, okay.
Yeah, so really, really good news there.
I'll start researching him now.
His nickname on our systems, or his alias, is Eyes. And his eyes are quite distinct on this CCTV. And looking at his last custody photo, comparing that to his image that we've got of him on the bus, the first image that we've got, he does have a similar hairline that you can see in our CCTV image, and he's got the same skin tone. He's been committing burglaries since he was a juvenile, and he's got 29 theft-related convictions, and it looks like he's committing burglary to fund his drug-related lifestyle. I think it's him.
Officers are dispatched to central Birmingham, where they arrest Adriz Mohammed close to his home.
Stand up here, please. You're right, sir. You're right.
Good evening.
Hiya.
I'm one of the custody sergeants here. You've been here before?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. What's your first name?
Adriz, A-D-R-I-S.
A-D?
R-I-S.
R-I-S. And what's your surname?
Mohammed.
What's under arrest for, please?
On suspicion of murder.
How are you feeling at the moment?
Just a bit. With what charges of shit in it. Sorry.
Ultimately, we want Adriz to explain himself. We want him to tell us why his DNA is in that house, what's he doing in the area in the early hours of the morning. And if he is innocent of that crime, but he knows who did do it, break in and have the bank card, for him to tell us.
Detectives start by putting the CCTV evidence to Adris Mohammed.
Okay, so this is going down Spies Lane towards the Co-op and towards Manor Lane. First one is at 0513 at 36 Manor Lane, so not far away. Is that you?
No comment.
And then you get the figure returning at 0600.
Is that you?
No comment.
One of the problems is that David's house is not caught on CCTV, so we've had to identify the cameras that are nearest to his house on Manor Lane. So this person goes past this camera on Manor Lane towards David Varlo's house. David's house is here. This person doesn't go past this camera. And then half an hour later, we're going past the same camera again. That is the only person that makes that movement.
The figure heads back to the Co-op at Spies Lane, and he's got hood up, and he's seen on the footage at the Co-op at 0602, and they're using the cash point. And they check the balance, and then they withdraw £250. Is that you?
No comment.
Have you got the PIN number for that card?
No comment.
Have you used force to take it from him?
No comment.
Have you put any type of restraint on Mr. Varlo?
No comment.
In relation to the other times that the stolen card's used over the next 10 days, there's over 300 incidents where it's used, and we believe there's various people that have been using it. So, have you given that card to anyone else?
No comment.
There's a lot of CCTV footage for all the transactions the card's been used at. Got one here from Diamond Travel on Dudley Road. You can see there's a female on the image. Do you recognise her?
No comment.
There's a male in brown trousers, dark blue gilet next to her. There you get a view of the top of the male's face, which I would say is similar to you. He appears to be a short male. On your custody record, it details you've been about 5'4". Is that right?
No comment.
When you do live in that world and you have that lifestyle, it's not uncommon for people to sell stolen bank cards. You know, he owes a debt and he's using that card to repay a drugs debt. Another explanation might be, did Adris hand that card off to kind of throw us off the scent somewhat, try and put the blame on someone else?
Adris Mohammed had no phone on him when he was arrested. But in a bid to link his movements to the CCTV evidence, digital media investigator Mark Hilton has been searching for any numbers that may be his.
Police systems and other systems accessible by the police has come up with a number finishing in 377 that's linked to Adris Mohammed. Some months prior to this incident, he actually used this phone number to call police and report some antisocial behaviour, giving his name and obviously that phone number. When we identify a phone number, we can apply for phone data. And what can sit within that data is where that phone number was when it was making and receiving calls and incoming and outgoing SMS messages. If the device is moving and therefore connecting to different cell masts as it's on the move, then we can successfully map where that A to B point is. So I want to see the location around the 3rd of November. And we can see immediately activations on these cell masts in the early hours. The blue marker there is Adris's home address. 5:19, there's a ping in Halesowen in the area of the deceased address, which is obviously the offence location and a key time for our victim's murder. And then from 6:16 onwards, he slowly makes his way back towards Birmingham on cell masts moving towards his home address. So we can see straight away that the Halesowen ping at a significant time is really key.
Looking further back into Adris Mohammed's phone usage data, Mark discovers something else.
An attempted break-in was also reported at our victim's address on the evening of the 24th of October. So if we look through the data of the number that's attributed to Adris, you can see from the activated cell site mass, 2307, 2309, there's clear movement to Manor Lane in Halesowen. And we know that that is around the time of the alleged break-in at Manor Lane. But then after this time, we can see at 1:19, the cell site's activated by that phone, moving away from Halesowen and back towards the Birmingham area. So it's planned, because it shows that there's a recce of that address on the 24th. Then on the 3rd, Adris Mohammed has gone with purpose, with intent on the 3rd. He knows where he's going. He's gone specifically straight to that address, to that location, and committed the crime he has on an elderly, vulnerable man.
You went there on the 24th as well and tried to break in, but he disturbed you.
No comment.
You thought, well, I haven't gained entry at this point, but my intention is to come back and try again.
No comment.
Is that why you've gone back on the 3rd?
No comment.
Was it a case of it's just gone terribly wrong when you were there?
No comment.
Or did you intend to cause him some harm?
No comment.
With Adris Mohammed giving no account of what happened in David's house in the early hours of the 3rd of November, detectives turned to the DNA evidence.
Blood staining was found on one side of the knife, and on the handle of the knife was found your DNA.
No comment.
Your DNA on the knife that's got David's blood on it.
No comment.
Explain to me how that's happened.
No comment.
Other than the fact that you had that knife and you've threatened David with it, assaulted David with it, caused him injury that's led to his blood getting on there.
No comment.
This is a 77-year-old bloke who's never hurt anyone, and he should be able to feel safe in his own house. A house where he's always lived, where he's grown up, where his family's lived before him. This isn't the clearest image, but we can see the male Ellie's getting on the bus. How frightening would that be to somebody who's just sat having a breakfast, reading a TV guide, looking forward to maybe what's coming on the TV later on in our evening, and that figure appears stood next to them. It's horrendous. I can say in my career, I think this is the worst case I've ever dealt with.
He's restrained a vulnerable person and caused him, no doubt, pain and suffering. However, whether he's committed murder or not, ultimately hinges on what Adris's intent was when he tied up David Varlow and left him to die. Did he know that that was a possible consequence of his actions? For me, that's part of the intent to commit murder.
The CPS authorises Adris Mohammed to be charged with the murder of David Varlow, and he is remanded in custody. But there are still unanswered questions relating to the timeline around David's death.
David was found on the 15th of November. 2nd of November, David was alive because we've got him using his bank card in Asda in Halesowen. However, by the 3rd of November, We know that bank card was in the possession of this man. From forensic work and phone work, we've identified Adris Mohammed. I'm absolutely satisfied that Adris Mohammed is responsible for David's murder. But we still got a really big unanswered question. The pathology indicates that David Varlow was tied up for some time, but Adris was only in his house for 30 minutes. So someone must have come back and untied him. Has the offender returned? Or could it be different people using David's bank card have gone to David's house and untied him? But we still don't know who untied him, when and why.
To interrogate Adris Mohammed's movements from the time the crime was committed until the discovery of David's body, Mark further analyses his phone data.
We know that he's in and around his home address from the 4th of November to the 5th of November, where at 17:57 there's very fast movement from a cell mast in Birmingham up towards Wolverhampton, which is much quicker than you would see on the conventional foot or bike or even by car at that time. Rail inquiries reveal CCTV at New Street train station in Birmingham. And then we can also see 18:30, he arrives in the area of Stafford, where he continues to use his phone, connecting to masts in and around his ex-partner's home address. And then on the 11th of November, there's movement on cell masts back towards Birmingham. And then we can see the Halesowen ping. So there's a confirmed hit in the Halesowen area, which is the deceased's address. And the mapping now is overwhelming in terms of the fact that it shows him moving by train on the 11th back down from Stafford to the offence location at Halesowen.
There's a number of cameras here. I'm just trying to find the right one.
Confirmation that Adris Mohammed revisited the scene of the crime on the 11th of November, 8 days after the initial burglary, prompts Glenn to review CCTV footage from that day.
Oh, this is interesting. Well, I think Tom would like that.
I think this is Adris Mohammed. But there's 2 people at the cash machine. This is a complete shock because I was only expecting one person. The one at the cash machine looks like the same height as Adris, but the one standing behind him, he looks a lot taller than who we think is Adris. The fact there's 2 people, that means potentially, there was another person involved.
The team can now focus on the pair's movements.
So this is a few doors down from David Varlow's address, and we can see 2 males walking away from David's address. And they haven't appeared in any of the footage the other side of David's. So the hypothesis is that they've gone to David's address, they've come out half an hour later and walked up the road towards the cash machine. This means basically that a second person has gone to the address with Adris. So have they gone inside? Have they moved the body? Have they untied David? So we need to identify that person because potentially, he's involved in this murder.
Not only does the CCTV reveal a second person at the cash point, but further financial inquiries reveal that the card they were using was different to the original one stolen from David.
One of David's expired cards was used on the evening of the 11th going into the 12th of November. We know that card wasn't used before the night of the 11th and early morning of the 12th. If it had been stolen in the initial burglary, then why didn't they use it earlier? The question for me is, has Adris confided in someone about this murder and that someone returned to the scene with Adris to assist him. What I'm doing now is going through our intelligence systems, looking at Adris Mohammed's associates to see if any of them match that person that we've got on CCTV. And we've identified this male, O'Shea Swan. He's considerably taller than Adris Mohammed. And looking at his facial features, his height, his broadness, he matches the person on the CCTV at the cash machine. Looking at his associates and looking at Adris's associates, they kind of mix in the same circles of people with drug-related lifestyles. So we need to get O'Shea Swan in custody to understand his involvement.
O'Shea Swan is arrested and is home searched for any evidence he accompanied Adris Mohammed on the night of the 11th of November.
O'Shea, so you've been arrested this morning from your home address.
Right. After I arrested you, obviously a search of your room took place, and police officers have recovered 3 handsets. What phone did you own? Was it the 821 or was it the other number you gave us? No, it would have been the 821.
So you've accepted the fact that 821 was your phone number. I just want to talk through the movements of that particular phone number. On the 11th of November, approximately 1837, it's in the area of Alston Street, an address that you frequent. But after that time, there's not a lot of activity until, so 3 seconds after midnight on the 12th. It's in the area, Hales Owen at Manor Lane, which is our address, okay? And as we've seen the CCTV, it fits with that.
Yeah. But you're saying to us that you did not go to that address with Adris Mohammed on the 11th. Okay.
As well as being suspected of burglary and fraud, Swan has also been arrested on the more serious crime of assisting an offender in a murder case.
Our hypothesis is that the person who burgled the house on the 3rd of November has tied up David Varlow. On the 11th into the 12th of November, 2 people have gone back, okay? And the assistant offender is because the second person who went into that address, if they went in and possibly untied him and moved him, is assisted with either trying to conceal it or trying to hide the body or whatever they've tried to do. So are you still saying to me and Mark that you did not go to Manor? You didn't go there? You did not go to that address? That isn't you in the CCTV and it wasn't you in possession of that phone? No.
Looking at all the evidence, O'Shea Swan has travelled all that way for a reason. My view is he's travelled all that way to help Adris Mohammed. Help him do what? We don't know. But that's when we think either O'Shea or Adris has untied David. If he died, tied and attached to the chair, one of them must have untied him and moved the chair. When we found that chair, there was banking documentation and a checkbook on top of the chair. So, shockingly, that means that someone must have been going through that paperwork in front of David's deceased body. For me, it's beyond horrific.
Tom and Joe meet to decide on the evidence they'll put to the CPS for a charging decision against O'Shea Swan.
We haven't actually got any forensic evidence for O'Shea, like to put him inside the premises.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that he's not been in there.
We're never going to know what O'Shea knew was going on inside that house. And ultimately, because we can't place O'Shea in the house through forensics, witnesses or CCTV, we can't ask CPS to authorise a charge of assisting offender. So the plan with O'Shea is that we're going to go for a charge of burglary and then fraud using David's bank card at the cash machine with Adris.
The verdict turns on how the judge and the jury interpret the evidence. For Adris, was it intentional, a murder, or was it manslaughter, or a burglary that went wrong? It's just a real awful and such a sad case.
Hi, Joe. I just wanted to give you the results.
Yeah, I've been waiting for this call.
So,
Adris has been sentenced to 33 years in prison minimum, so he's got a life sentence, but he's got to serve a minimum of 33 years.
33, that's a lengthy sentence, isn't it?
it is. It's really, really good.
It just shows the jury, you know, when they found him guilty, they, you know, believe that Adris did have intent. The intent was there to murder David. There's obviously aggravating features in this case in terms of the fact that he's tied up a vulnerable male. He's left him to die. He's caused him a lot of pain and suffering. But ultimately, Adris Mohammed is off the street for 33 years and he won't be able to do this to anyone else.
Forensics played a huge part in identifying the offender in this case with regards to DNA testing. And if you did try and put us off the scent by moving the body, untying him, distributing the bank cards, he did a real poor job.
And as for Swan's got
6 years for burglary and fraud.
We couldn't
Put him in the scene, could we? So, I mean, that's also a good sentence, isn't it?
No, it's really good.
Regarding O'Shea, the judge concluded that when he went with Adris Mohammed to burgle David's house, O'Shea knew that Adris had killed David Varlow, and that potentially will add weight to the severity of his sentence.
This particular case has really highlighted to me that there are bad people out there that will do horrible things to elderly people. But the way I kind of think of it is I can't change what's happened, but what I certainly can do is get justice for the victim and their families. That really kind of drives me on every job, to get justice for them.
Year-old Sarah Maynard was found bound and gagged but alive in the basement of a Mount Vernon home. Police arrested Matthew Hoffman.
They just kept torturing me and torturing me and torturing me. He said, if you try to escape, I'm going to kill you.
My assistant news director calls me and says, we're getting word that Sarah has been found. I need you to go to this location.
I was free. I know I was free, but I was still scared. I was just a scared little girl.
Matthew Hoffman remains in the Knox County Jail this evening. Her brother Cody, mom Tina, and her mom's friend Stephanie Spring are nowhere to be found.
I don't know if there's other people are.
This is a life or death situation.
They need to be saved.
Sarah's taken to the hospital Sunday morning.
We saw this blood on the tile. We're like, oh my gosh.
Our team broke in and arrested Hoffman and recovered her. She's taken right to the hospital, and while she's there, then investigators go and talk to her to try to find out what she knows.
As we started telling people, Sarah's alive, Sarah's alive, Sarah's alive, the community is overjoyed. But then the following question is, well, what about Tina? What about Cody? What about Stephanie?
All right, Matt, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pat you down here real quick.
Hoffman's in custody and the interviews are beginning. So yeah, a lot of moving parts right now.
I feel the pressure of knowing everybody wants to know the answer to where their loved ones are, where Tina, Cody, and Stephanie are.
We wanted to know what happened to her. We were hoping that she had some information that would help us locate the other 3 people. We don't know if they're alive or dead.
Cody and I went to school, had a normal day at school, came home. He was like kind of rushing to the steps of the house. And I said, Cody, wait. So I had opened the door. Well, it felt like somebody was like on the other side of the door messing with the doorknob. And so when I had opened the door, I kind of like fell in a little bit. I looked down, went to take my shoes off and seen a pile of blood. I was screaming for Mom, nothing, didn't see Mom. Usually she had greeted us every day when we got home and she hadn't been there. Well, the dog wasn't in his cage, didn't see the dog, hadn't seen Mom. So I proceeded to turn right, which is where the hall is, where our rooms were, and this man came out and grabbed me by my throat. I jumped through his arms, ran to my room, and when I got into my room, I seen blood everywhere. There's blood all over my walls and all over the floor. He busted the door open, and then he had the knife at my chest, which had blood on it. I don't know if Cody tried to run out the door, what he tried to do. And then the man put me over his shoulders, took me down in the basement, in the garage, and laid me face down and started asking me a bunch of questions if anybody was going to be coming to the house anytime soon. And I had said, yeah, my mom's boyfriend. Well, he started laughing. He tied my arms behind my back, tied my legs. And I said, ouch, that hurts. And he said, I don't care if your arms and legs turn purple. And then after that, he had picked me up, put me over his shoulder, took me back upstairs, put me in a sit-up position in the kitchen. And he got like a white towel. He put it in my mouth, gagged me. And then he put a towel over my eyes, tied it. So now I'm blindfolded. And then he put a pillowcase over my head and tied it. And then he had pushed me down. So now I'm face down in the kitchen side and blindfolded and gagged. He asked me if I could see, and I had told him that I couldn't, but it was white, so I could see a little bit. I could see that there was groceries still in the bags in the kitchen. It seemed like an hour or so, I don't know. It seemed like forever. I'd just been laying there. The only thing I was thinking was, hopefully somebody finds me. But I was so scared.
Water good enough for you?
There's 3 people that are missing. We found one person. We need to find them.
I think you know what we want to talk about. But we need to find some people.
We have 2 of our lead detectives on the case. Obviously, we want to interview Hoffman and see if he'll tell us, what happened.
Matt, can you hear me?
The clock is ticking because every person in law enforcement will tell you the longer that this drags on, the less likely that the people that they're looking for are going to survive.
He puts me over his shoulder and then takes me back down to the basement and then puts me in a vehicle. Before he blindfolded me and gagged me, I had seen Stephanie's Jeep in the garage. And I was like, why is Stephanie's Jeep in our garage? I didn't ask nothing. I just had screamed for Mom, no response. And then he had said, if you ask about your mom and brother again, I'm gonna kill you. He had taken off out of the garage. He was driving really fast and really out of control. So I'm thinking where else is he gonna take me? Moving all over the place in the back, I'm suffocating pretty much. I'm blindfolded and gagged at the same time. I'm laying on my hands being tied behind me, laying on my back, and then my legs were tied. Then the car stops.
We gotta get this squared up, man. You know and I know. You want to talk to one of us alone, or do you want us both in here, or you comfortable with both of us being here? Matt? Matt, the sooner we get this moving, the sooner we can all move on.
Finally, it became obvious that he wasn't going to say anything.
Matt, are you here with us?
We need to reconsider what we wanted to do next.
Matt.
I hear him get out of the car and shut the door. I talking to myself and I'm like, what am I gonna do? So somehow I knew, so I took my left shoulder and I put my head down and I tried to pull the blindfold down enough just so I could see a little bit. I sat up and I could see that we were at the baseball fields where Cody and I had played. A while goes by. I kind of can see a little bit that it was daylight and now it's dark, so I'd been laying there for a while in the car. So at this point, I don't really know what to do. Other than if he tells me to do something, I'm just gonna do it. That's the only way that kept me, alive. He then grabs me by the legs and then picks me up, puts me over his shoulder, and then put me in the trunk of another car. And I was squished. I couldn't move. He unblindfolds me, but I'm still gagged. And then he just starts driving all crazy and fast, and he says, if you make a sound, if you try to talk, if you make a sound and I get pulled over, I'm gonna kill the cop and then I'm gonna kill you.
I think we need your help and you need ours.
He's like he's in a trance. He's just sitting there. And this goes on for hours. They're sitting there asking him questions, and he's not responding in any way.
Hi, Matt. I'm Joe Dietz. I'm a special agent with the New Hampshire Criminal Investigation.
Joe tries all the strategies. phone call in front of him.
Sarah was wanting to find out what happened to her mother and brother, but he's just not having it.
Praying with him.
Sometimes in this world, in spite of whatever wrong we may have done, we have the opportunity to do something right for someone that we care about.
Staying silent, trying to use Matthew's own technique back against him. All of it to no avail.
Just give me a clue. I mean, save me the time. Say, okay, I'll tell you this, or I'm not going to say anything, so don't bother hanging around.
We have to assume that we've got to find these people ourselves.
We got Hoffman's ex-girlfriend's information. We felt that she may be able to assist us in terms of locations, places that she and Matthew had gone while they were dating that may lead us to the victims. Matthew was crazy about trees and he loved the woods. And a very typical date would be to go out on a Saturday to some unusual tree that Matthew had singled out from all the other trees and string guidelines up in the canopy of the tree, and they would lay in hammocks all day on a Saturday afternoon and listen to birds. She and I drove all around the county to all of the places that she could recall Matthew taking her and hanging out in these trees. With very little to go on, we're kind of looking for a needle in a haystack.
Going out the door now.
We're very frustrated now because we're not getting any information from Matthew at all that will help us locate these individuals. We don't know if they're alive or dead.
Eventually the car stops, takes me out of the trunk, puts me over his shoulder with all the blankets on top of me. I hear a door open, like a house door. And then sets me down and then tells me not to move. I was a super shy, quiet girl, so I didn't really talk very much. I'm super scared. I'm shivered up. I don't know what to do. I don't know what's going on. The only thought I have is this guy's gonna kill me.
One of the detectives tells us that he noticed that when Hoffman came in to be processed, fingerprinted and photographed, and a DNA swab taken, that there was a female deputy that he talked to and actually opened up a little bit to. And when I hear this, and it occurred to me that, well, maybe what we need to do is just to have a female come in and try to interview him and see if maybe he opens up to her.
I get the call from Harry that they want me to try to talk to him and interview him. I immediately know the stakes are very high, and this is going to have an impact on many people's lives, for good or bad, depending on what we get out of this. So it was very serious, and I knew that right away. We're trying to figure out how can we get him to talk? How can we, this is a very unique situation. I don't think I've ever come across a case where someone's gone without speaking at all and almost just not even present at all.
Hi, Matt. Hi, my name's Chris. I wanted to talk to you for a second if I could. Just gonna close the door. What are you doing?
We decided to put my hair up in a ponytail, and I went in with a softer voice. I was never cutesy and young. I was just trying to, he selected Sarah, 13-year-old, blonde girl that was wearing ponytail in her pictures. So it was just a thought to say, if we want to make him feel more comfortable, let's do that.
Do you go by Matt or Matthew, or you want me to call you something else? I don't want to call you the wrong name. Doesn't matter. What do your friends usually call you? Do they call you Matt? Okay, that's okay. All right. Like I said, you can call me Chris. I'd like to help you, Matt, and find out how you're feeling and what's going on.
I know everybody in the community is aware of what's going on in the moment. I know the entire police department is outside this door waiting to hear those infamous words of location and where they are.
I know you don't know me, but sometimes that can be a good thing, because sometimes it's easier to talk to someone we don't know.
As soon as we get into the house, takes the blankets off me, unblindfolds me, but I'm still gagged. And then he tells me to go, and I'm not sure where he wants me to go, so he just starts kicking me around. And so I'm army crawling, wherever he wants me to go, because I'm still tied. My hands are still tied behind my back, and my legs are still tied, so I can't walk. So we go into this bathroom, and all I see is just leaves and bags, like plastic bags, all around the bathroom. He picks me up and puts me on the toilet seat on my butt, so I'm facing towards the door. And so he gets down on his knees, and he's right in my face, and he's like, "Are you hungry? Are you hungry? Are you hungry? Because too bad you're not eating." He just kept torturing me and torturing me and torturing me. He said, "If you try to escape, I'm going to kill you." He now leaves the bathroom. He shuts the door, and it's super dark. It's pure dark in there. I'm looking around, and I see a window above the toilet, and there was no way for me to get up there to get out. I'm gagged. My hands are behind my back tied. My legs are still tied. He busted through the door and said, "Come on, follow me." He picks me up. He tells me to follow him. He opens up a door. Don't no idea what the door is to. There was like a chest, like a wood chest. He moved that out of the way, told me to stand there and not move. He opened up the door. I see it's a basement. He pushes me, so I fall down all the steps. And now I'm at the bottom of the step.
I appreciate that you were not in your head before. I just want to make sure you're still with me.
I've been talking to him for about 30 minutes, one-sided, just me talking. And then he all of a sudden puts his head up and starts speaking to me.
Must have done something bad. I wouldn't be here if I didn't.
Wow, that can be worked through.
It is a relief when he finally says something.
I'm afraid you know what it was I did.
I want to reconnect with him and get him to start talking again. So I'm leaning over and I touch his knee to try to make a connection. And he reacted and sat straighter up and then started speaking again.
I don't know what those other people are.
What other people?
The ones those guys grilled me about yesterday.
He says, "Here's your bed. I wanted to make it comfy." And when I'm looking around, it's just a bed of leaves. Like, it just leaves. And then the comforters I slept with every night at Mom's is laying on top of the leaves. I was super scared. And I said, why are the blankets that I slept with every night at Mom's, you know, every night I went to bed, those were the blankets I slept with, are laying on top of these leaves?
Leaves? Why the heck would he put leaves in his basement and force Sarah to sleep on those leaves? What kind of monster is this?
He was a weirdo. I mean, he really was a weirdo. Like, he sat in the trees. If you look back here in the tree, there's a hammock where he would sit and watch people. He's just different.
I'm afraid that what they're saying is true and that I'm some sort of a monster.
I don't think you're a monster at all.
With her rescue, we still want to remain optimistic that Tina, Stephanie, and Cody are alive, maybe being held against their will at some location.
I'm sure she still has some other fears of not knowing where her mom and her brother are. And that may be something that you can appease as well. And give her some peace.
I don't know how I could help her anymore now. That's what I mean, I don't know how.
He is saying that he's can't remember anything that's happening. He can't imagine that he had done anything like this before.
Stay with me. We can talk about something else. I just don't want you to go into your head. But if they're out there somewhere and can be helped, you're the key to that. So even if it's us going through the timeline to maybe stir your memory.
He's talking to me. He's communicating and connecting.
I appreciate you talking to me this long.
Thank you, too.
And you're kind of on the edge of your seat trying to just hold on to the fact that the next thing he's going to say is where they are.
If anything at all you think you can talk about, I can help you and help us, help Sarah and her family.
Sitting there, I'm thinking, are they still alive? Can you tell me if they're still alive? Just let me know that. All we know for sure is that the clock is ticking and we are running out of time.
I asked where my mom and brother was, and I said, so how are we gonna get to school? He got very angry, and he's like, if you bring it up again, I'm gonna kill you. I'm sitting, and my arms are still tied behind my back. He pushes me down, and so now I'm laying down on the bed of leaves. And then duct tapes my legs together, so there's no possible way for me to move. He said he kidnapped me for ransom, that if I tried to escape, something about his buddies are gonna come get me, and he's gonna get away. I had no idea what ransom was. He had said that my parents had to pay him for kidnapping me. And so I was confused. I had no idea. You know, I was just a little girl. I had no idea. I was just scared. He didn't make me believe I was going home.
I want to help you. I do, Matt.
Matthew Hoffman is playing a game, and he's winning. He's keeping control of the entire situation.
He walks back up the steps, don't know where he's going. And then he comes back downstairs and he has a bowl of cereal with milk and said that's what I had to eat. And then I smelled the milk and it smelled spoiled, so I didn't eat anything. He said, if you're still hungry, you have to eat a dead squirrel. So he had the squirrel in his hand. And so I was scared. I'm like, oh my gosh, what's he gonna do? Force me to eat it? So I didn't eat anything.
This coffee's kind of good. We can go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Right.
No, you're not gonna try and overpower me and take my gun or anything, right?
No, you might. If you want to, you can give it to someone.
Okay.
Let's go. I want to use the bathroom.
Gary?
Joe takes him to the restroom.
In the moment, there's definite excitement and holding your breath. Is he really going to say something to Agent Dietz? Is he not? Is this part of the game?
Ultimately, he has a conversation with Joe and tells Joe that he's dreaming and he's seeing these horrendous images in his dreams.
He says, I had this dream of what had happened. I will tell you where the bodies are. He did it. He killed 3 people. I will tell you where the bodies are, but only if you agree to kill me while we're out there.
Well, that's not going to happen.
It's a very sad moment. This is probably going to be a recovery and not a rescue. It just weighs heavy how important it is to find the bodies for closure for the families.
There was no window. It was pure dark, 100% dark. I'm laying there on the bed of leaves, and he, pulls my pants down. I'm so tied. And then he sexually assaults me with the knife laying on my chest. I just had my head turned the entire time. And then after that, he took the knife off me and then, put my pants back up. I just know it hurt. I just had the thought of it hurting. There's a knife laying on top of me. Keeps telling me he's going to kill me. So is he going to kill me? And then I was still laying there tied up. And then he had left, walked upstairs, and after that, I just had laid there. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what if he gets me pregnant? What if I get pregnant and I have to have a kid with this guy? That is a thought I did have.
We know that our searchers have looked pretty much everywhere that they can, and we're not going to be able to find these individuals without his help.
This is your last chance right now to talk to us.
We're in the moment of knowing that we only have so much time left.
So, this is realistically our last opportunity.
You gotta think of your family.
And the lack of the media pressure can also take some of the other people that are, being affected by it. Sorry about that.
Okay. We're done. We apparently are told we are done.
Disappointment because I didn't get the answer that I wanted. You didn't get the people back. So you just kind of sit back and breathe that in, and you have to kind of live with it in the moment. He enjoyed playing with us, and he enjoyed having us basically beg for information and him be able to say inside, I'm not giving it.
But he's got the death penalty hanging over his head. The prosecutor approaches Hoffman's attorneys and says, you know, let's talk about maybe making some kind of a deal here. We're willing to drop the death penalty in exchange for Matthew giving us a statement about what happened. And at that point, Hoffman's okay with dropping the death penalty. So the understanding is he has to give us a written statement about what happened, and he also has to draw a map of where we'll be able to find the remaining 3 people. He says, you know, you got to go out to Kokosing State Park. There's a tree there that I'm very familiar with, and he puts it on the little map that he draws. About 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I get in the car with the sheriff, and we have the other investigators following behind us, and the sheriff and I follow the attorney that's got the map. We drive out to Kokosing State Park. We get out of the sheriff's car. We walk up to the attorney, and he goes, I think that's the tree he's talking about. And we're looking, and sure enough, it's about 60 foot tall. It's a beech tree, and about 30 feet up, you can see that there's a hollowed out point in the tree. And we're going, son of a bitch, this might be truthful. So now we're at the base of the tree, and I'm watching as one of the crime scene guys, he's cutting a square into the tree, and he has this pole with a mirror on it and attached to the end of it, and he sticks the pole in, and at first he's looking up the tree and he doesn't see anything, and then he adjusts the mirror, the pole, and he's looking down and he goes, I see garbage bags. We're like, you gotta be kidding me, he really did this. He really did this. We lay a tarp out on the ground, and we're all gathered around as the 2 crime scene guys are lifting the garbage bags out. All of us are thinking at this point that what is really in those bags? Are they really body parts? We gather around the tarp, and the 2 crime scene detectives were watching as they pull one bag after another out. They pull 7 garbage bags out. Now they're laying on the tarp. And we're all gathered around, kind of quiet and like shaking our heads and just in disbelief, I think. Nobody's really saying anything, but once we have all 7 bags out, you know, there's a sadness there that that we're all feeling, that this is really family members, you know, of our missing people. Awful, awful situation. I think all of us have seen some horrific things before, but I mean, this is still shocking to see this. I think it was just awful what had happened to these nice people. What kind of an animal would do this?
Today this investigation took a major turn.
Sheriff Barber gets up, and he, in his own calm way, you know, saying that, you know, today we were able to locate the bodies, and unfortunately they're deceased.
We have discovered and recovered the remains of Cody Maynard, Stephanie Sprang, and Tina Herman.
And I don't think there was many of a dry eye at the press conference.
I felt for Sheriff Barber because I could tell during his press conferences, he was also getting emotional, about it as well.
We're inspired by Sarah. We're inspired by Sarah's bravery. I asked Larry Maynard to convey to Sarah, to tell her that she was my hero.
I just broke down. I started crying. I'm glad and thankful I didn't have to see that. They'll never be forgotten, and I will always love them tremendously. What I would do to be able to say that I loved them one last time.
As a journalist, you're taught never to show emotion. However, in this case, when the sheriff says 3 bodies of Tina, Cody, and Stephanie were stuffed in a tree in a garbage bag, I am pissed. I'm angry, and I'm heartbroken, just because that's not any way a person should die, let alone 3 people.
I'm walking down the hallway and I can hear Sheriff Barber sobbing inside his office. And I give it a little bit of time and I knock on the door and I go in and I say, "I love you, brother." And I said, "Good job." I said, do you need anything?" And he said, "No, I'm all right." After this case, I got a phone call from somebody who told me that Sheriff Barber had committed suicide in his home. And that was a shocker because Dave to me was, not only a friend, but, he's kind of happy-go-lucky guy and just so nice to be around. And to know that he ended his life just was shocking.
Sheriff Barber took his own life. And we don't know why that happened, but I can't help but imagine that some of what we went through that week probably took a toll on him.
Matthew got the plea deal he made, which was in cooperation of, given the location of the bodies, the death penalty be taken off. So he didn't get the death penalty. So he just got life in prison, which makes me happy because I feel like that piece of shit needs to suffer. I think that he needs to rot in hell for the rest of his life.
My daughter is a high school history teacher at East Knox Local High School. Cody would have graduated in May of 2018. So East Knox holds their graduation ceremony on their football field outside. And my daughter was there that day. And as she is walking across the field, they're preparing for graduation. There's a chair at the front of the seating area for students with a purple cap and gown. I'm sorry. There's a cap and gown draped across a chair with Cody's diploma and a white rose. And it totally blew me away. It hit me like a ton of bricks because I'm, years removed from this thing, and wow, I just, it was just surreal. It was a reminder that we all did a good thing here in Knox County, and the bright spot of all of this is that there's a young lady who survived. Just proud to be able to say that I had a small part in doing that.
If Cody was alive today, I think that me and him would have a serious bond. And the innocent little boy that he was then, saying that he wanted to be in the Coast Guard, I think today that he would be saving people's lives. I think that he would be super successful as a straight A student, so I think he would even be in college or graduated college.
This is a case that you never let go of and always think about. I have no doubt that if we would not have found Sarah, she would not have made it through this situation. I believe that first he would have kept Sarah for as long as it was pleasurable to him to keep her. And this would not have been the last time that he did this, because he got a taste of it and realized he could get away with it. And he would have continued doing these things again, one way or the other.
Hoffman is in prison for the rest of his life in Toledo, Ohio. And I looked up his anticipated date of release. It was 01/01/8888.
I think the way that I grieve from my mom and brother being gone is that I realized that Mom and Cody wouldn't want me to sit here and suffer every day of my life, but knowing that I am the only survivor of it, and it hurts, knowing that I couldn't be the save of the day, and, there's nothing that I could have done, so I can't feel guilt. But my mom would not want me to take the easy way out either. She wouldn't want that for me, knowing that my children need me. My kids is what saved my life from not taking the easy way out. So it makes Sarah Maynard the strong-willed woman that she is today, to be able to say that she is the sole survivor, because I believe not very many people could go through such a thing and still be standing here as strong as I am today. I just try to live day by day and just simple goals just to raise my kids every day, and just for them to be happy, then I'll be happy.
If you or someone you know has been affected by any of the issues raised tonight, please go to channel5.com/helplines for information and support. With an unprecedented glimpse into what goes on behind the scenes of the investigation, murder scene, the incident room, tomorrow at 8. More true crime next.